Hey, you're skipping a lot of numbers, kid.
Yeah, right. I don't know how to count to 1,000.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Well, that's fine. 1, 1,000. Here I come. Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We're here talking about Severance. Season 1, Episode 6. Hide and Seek. We open with Harmony at home, I think. She's got this cement block dorm room quality to her bedroom. Anyway, she's there. She's got Petey's chip in a necklace around her neck. Gaynor calls her to tell her he thinks that a former Lumen employee named Ragabi, whom they both seem to know, completed the reintegration for Petey. She then prays at a shrine to Kier Egan. There's a whole bunch of little things in that shrine.
Yes.
Things that stood out to me. There was a general admission ticket to the 7th annual Kiernival. Like, oh boy. Okay. We see that she likely attended the Myrtle Egan School for Girls.
Okay.
And we see a medical bracelet, I think, with the name Charlotte Coble on it, and the date. I think the date for Charlotte Coble's birth is like 1944, so that's probably Harmony's mom. Anyway. That maybe she's got this, so maybe that gives us insight into why she's this Lumen cultist. Maybe,
Sure.
Maybe she thought that Lumen could help her ailing mom. I don't know. Whatever. We end with Mark finally answering Petey's cell phone.
Yes.
That thing held a great charge. Lumen's charging technology, very good.
Yeah.
But he talks to the other end of the line. It's almost certainly Ragabi, and he agrees to meet with her late at night, back at the college where he used to teach. We see that Grainer is also on his way there as well. And so anyway, Mark meets with Ragabi, and we'll see what they discuss next week.
Yeah.
So that said, Paul, what did you think of episode 6 of Severance?
Dear perfect Kier.
That song came up multiple times.
Kier. It did, yeah. Like the first viewing, I didn't catch that that's the lullaby she was singing to the baby there. It's
the lullaby she's singing to the baby, and it's the theme song playing while she's praying to that shrine.
Ah, okay.
I have an instrumental version of it. So
okay,
yeah. Anyway, like, woo.
It's everywhere. Yeah, that would have been perfect if the lyrics to "Fuck You, Lumen" were that music. That
right.
That melody.
That would have been a nice touch.
Yeah. Fuck you, Kier. So I enjoyed it. I was very pleased. I was happy to see Dylan at home, and Dylan got to see him at home.
That is the big reveal of the episode. There's a few reveals, but that one in particular is like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was surprised too that Mark got a second date.
Yeah, I got a theory on that.
Oh, okay. From Alexa, but we'll see what's going on with that. But yeah, so I enjoyed it. I liked it. How about you?
Yeah, I did. I thought at first, on first viewing, I thought, oh, it's got this one giant reveal a la the goats from the previous episode. But then on further reflections, like actually a lot happened in this episode. The creep factor maybe wasn't quite as high, although the praying at the shrine and singing that song is pretty creepy. But yeah, a lot. They're pushing the story along nicely. From, obviously, the big one was Dylan at home. You've got this idea of Ragabi. Now we know this person that actually did the reintegration, who apparently used to be an employee at Lumen. We've got this meeting. I figured they would bring that rich woman back, and they did, and that meeting is really awkward.
Yeah.
And
that's anyway, interesting that she was being severed there while she was giving birth.
It seems that way, right? I mean, we don't know for sure, but that's what I got out of it too.
Yeah.
She didn't seem to have any memory.
One thing we learned though is that they can, put you back into the sever you remotely in this episode.
Yeah, man, that could be exploited so terribly. But yeah. So the world, the reality of this severance process, we have now learned is much more invasive or intrusive than we thought. Right, or than we had proof of. So before this episode, the assumption was, hey, there's some kind of field that when you go to work, it clicks you off and you're in your innie, and then you leave work and you're in your outie. No. They can switch you at any time, any place. He's at home. I was trying to think of, at first I thought, wait, does Milchick live there? But I don't think that's the case.
No.
I think what happened is, so Dylan...
He just went to his house.
Yeah, so Dylan stole a card, a seemingly innocuous little, like, self-defense card or something from the O&D department. Yeah. Milchick saw him do it and is like, this is so important that I have to go off hours, activate his innie, and find out what he did with the card. So I assume what happened is Milchick went to his house. He would have known him. They would have known each other from the outies because Milchick knows Mark's outie. Milchick knows Helly's outie as well, right? So they have relationships. So he's kind of the outie. He meets with the outies.
Yeah.
So that's not that unusual that Dylan would know him. So he goes to Dylan's house and he says, "Hey, Dylan, I need to talk to your innie. So why don't we do this? You go into the closet. Let's tell your kid to sit out here and count to 1,000. Then I'm going to quickly activate this thing, talk to your innie, and then I'll click it off, and you'll be just fine, and we'll go about our business."
Right.
And so, but yeah, the kid comes in.
Yeah.
I'll say this: the kid was getting pretty close to 1,000 at the beginning of this thing. Like, he's at 750 when that scene starts. So I'm like, and he did count to 1,000. You should have told him to count to 2,000.
He is a kid too. So.
Yeah, right. 750.
You should have had somebody outside saying, "Hey, you're skipping a lot of numbers, kid."
Yeah, right. I don't know how to count to 1,000. Yeah. Like, oh, okay. Well, that's fine. 1,000. Here I come. So that's probably where the hide and seek comes from too, right? They probably were like, that's the name of the episode. Like, we're gonna go hide. You count to 1,000 and then come find us.
Yeah.
So the kid comes in, and then Milchick is pretty mean to the kid, really, right? He kind of.
He is.
I told you to wait to count to 1,000.
Yeah, he is evil. So
Yeah. Although we see evil Harmony seems really great with little kids, but anyway, that was kind of an interesting duality. Yeah. We see our two evil people both dealing with kids, and they both have different
styles. Yeah.
Yeah. But so Dylan's innie was like, "Whoa, what the? I have a kid! Wow!" Yeah. And he also sees his closet, so he knows like what clothes he has. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's obviously coming back around, unless the tech also comes with a memory eraser. Or something.
I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think so either. What's the point in that scene then? If you're not going to have it move, push this thing along. So now Dylan is going to know he's got a son,
right? And
that also suggests that's happened before, right? It doesn't have to, but it seems because he seems pretty like, are we good here? Are we good? Okay, great.
Well, because you came to visit me, I want this certain information. Are we good? Sure, he doesn't want him there necessarily.
Right.
It's like
I'm just saying, in other words,
being separate. We don't know that it's happened before.
That's a good point. I just feel like it would require more backstory, more talk up front. If you're like, we've never been here before,
the stuff that we didn't.
But by the way, we could just flip you off at a moment's notice. So we're going to do that right now, and like what? But they probably signed it. They probably agreed to it up front. Oh yeah,
he could have said any number of things before because we only saw it from when he snapped him in. So you could have said any number of things like we need to do that. Oh, you can do that? We don't know.
Yeah. In this case, he needed to work with Dylan because he has a kid. But let's say with Mark, I don't even think he would need permission, right? He'd just show up. He could just flip Mark off, turn him to innie mode without Mark even knowing.
Right. Yeah, the thing that occurred to me as we were talking, actually, is that nothing stopped Harmony from talking to him as his neighbor, and then tell me this information, and there's nothing to stop her from doing that.
We kind of feel like there's very difficult.
Except that you want to put him in a place where he wouldn't know where he was because it seems to benefit them to have them have as little idea about where they are as possible. Right. Yeah.
Every time you do it, you risk something like the kid showing up. So you risk a little bit more info getting out there too. So they probably restrict the amount of times they do that. One thing we also learned that just they kind of dropped it in there. We were mentioning Casey. Casey goes to the break room because she failed to monitor Helly appropriately.
Yes, and she's not permanent there. She only comes in when necessary.
She's a part-time innie, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
okay,
which,
all right.
for somebody who obviously has a profession that makes her more valuable, she might have thought, okay, well, I'll get paid by them, and then, when they need me, they'll call me in. So it's not like she's got to go in there every day.
Right. So yeah, I guess it's not that different a working arrangement than going there full time. It's just interesting. I think we're seeing that the uses of the severance process are growing, especially if you think, oh, this woman, the rich woman, severed herself to give birth, perhaps. Where I'm coming down on it is, so I think her name is Gabby. Gabby has no real memory of Devin or meeting with her. Her husband is a state senator who is for legalizing severance.
Yes, and apparently it's not just at Lumen that this procedure exists.
So it's not a Lumen-specific thing. Other companies are doing it. They live in the town of Kier, and I saw that they're posing for a photo in Kier Life. So anyway, it's like, everything.
Okay.
But they've got 3 kids, so what I'm guessing is maybe she being Gabby, like, severs herself to just avoid the pain of childbirth, perhaps?
I was thinking that it was harder to think of the motivation for her husband to want her to be severed. It's like what's happening when that's going on that you would need her to be severed. It's interesting that why are the names different?
Right.
Is it
William versus Bradley? Yeah. So it's
like, is it something that are there other desires and feelings that she has that are separate from their marriage because she's maybe only at that time, but maybe not. Maybe whenever he wants, he can sever her.
Or maybe it's like any version of Gabby wanted to name the kid William, but then when it came time, then the husband's input comes in. They're like, no, I want to name the kid Bradley. All right, kid's name is Bradley. Perhaps something like that.
Yeah, that's the more innocent version. Yeah, I guess that could, at this point we just don't know about any other motivation. But it's still an interesting thing. It's hard to imagine what other benefits you get from that, unless the thing that I'm imagining is, you could abuse someone that way.
Certainly.
So you could ooh, you've made me mad, and then you go into the sever them,
any mode,
beat them around, and then once you're done, you just
Oh no, it's terrible. Yeah. But it's also interesting. Like, I think we're seeing this idea, and maybe I mentioned that perhaps the rationale that Severance uses to coax people into doing it is the idea of like, hey, you never have to work again, Audi, because your innie will do all that. So maybe it's kind of like, hey, things that are painful
unpleasant or
annoying to me, I can just flip the innie on and let them do it, and then I never have to do it. So, anyways, just it's what the implications of that scene are very interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. Well, Mark continues to read Ricken's book.
Yes.
And it is playing out the way we thought, where it's like starting to lead to like this little mini revolution.
I'm glad Mark's beginning to stand up for himself. Again, it's like, what do we do here? And she's having to be, Harmony's having to be, more and more strident. But I feel like it's less. It's affecting him less and less, and I like that. It's like there was practically no time at all after Harmony said he couldn't, roam around. That he.
Yep. He's like, we're gonna roam around.
Yeah. And he doesn't. And he doesn't. He doesn't have any fear or shame. I guess, except when he goes to the break room, to say, "We're not doing anything wrong here. We're not children."
Yeah, that was a great line. I like that too, because they do get treated like kids for sure. like little goat kids.
Yeah.
No, whatever. I don't know. They do bring up the goats again, which look. There's a place where they have goats.
And it's interesting that Bert was, or either Bert or Irving were saying that Keir wanted everybody to be together, and like, I'm not sure where they're getting that idea. As long as they've been in that situation.
Yeah, well, I guess there's one of the little mottos involves like people working together to achieve greatness or something like that. And so I think it's like pick the motto that you want to accentuate. If you're the Lumen higher ups, you want to accentuate the idea of like nobody knows what they're doing.
Yeah, that's true. It's just interesting that it's taken this long for them to start.
Yes, it has taken very long.
Yeah. Although I wonder if that's what they experienced before, because they either groups would start to collaborate and then cause trouble, and that's why they created those paintings that talked about
yes,
try to pit
I was thinking
groups
that
against
too.
each other.
That maybe there was a riot back in the day where the groups got together and they decided, what are we doing here? And they rebelled against the higher-ups. And so the higher-ups kind of redid the plan, but this time, make sure everybody's apart. I think that could be, yeah. But we also get introduced to another room. This one, Bert takes Irving to this garden area.
Yes. It's a bunch of plants with no direct sunlight.
I know. I'm like, are they fake? I don't know. It's an intriguing scene as well. Bert obviously is kind of moves in for a kiss. Is talking about how the rules don't say you can't touch lips. And the way that they're trying to get around it is it won't be romantic. Right. But I like the honesty of that moment where Irving's like, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
But yes, let's talk about how we can make this fit within the rules first.
Yes.
Then,
Exactly. Yeah, we just won't feel romantic when we do it. That's all.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I love, again, the fact that Ricken's book is having this, what I consider to be a positive effect, despite the fact that it is so poorly written. The idea of camaraderie.
Yes.
It's from the word camera. No, it's not.
Is it?
It is not from the word camera at all. It's from comrade, but anyway, that's fine.
When you're taking a picture of your friend. Come on.
But yeah, it's giving Mark this courage to disobey the higher-ups, and he willingly accepts this task, trip to the break room. We see later he's got, injured knuckles.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what that's. We're probably going to see the other side of that.
It's very interesting that the point that they decided to switch to their Audi. We have to see what that's about. There's no way. I mean, and all that stuff. There's nothing that we see after that inside after that. Oh,
good. Well, right. Okay. Good point. From the innie perspective, yeah.
Right.
We do see, not from the innies, but we do see inside the building, maintenance is installing what looks like a security door to, I assume, keep each department in each department. Like, no more roaming the halls. Yeah, is what I'm getting out of it. But I will see how that goes down. I don't know that. I mean, that's a pretty big stay you. So we'll see how that goes. Another oddity. It's not quite on the level of baby goats, but we see that O&D is creating 3D printed watering cans. Oh, and they mention hatchets. So anyway, what that means. They have a knick-knack shop. Lumen Lumen has a flea market, is what they have. In some ways, you think a watering can, a hatchet, baby goats. Sounds like a farm. It sounds like somehow they're recreating a giant farm. Who knows? As you mentioned, Mark gets a second date with, I think her name is Alexa.
Yes, it is.
She was also the Mark's sister's midwife, essentially.
Yes.
She says that she recommended lactation consultants for Mark's sister. And then we see that the lactation consultant that shows up is probably going to get the job is Harmony.
Right.
To me, that's a big red flag that maybe Alexa is a spy. That's why they had a second date, because she wants to keep tabs on Mark, and she's trying to push Mark about, well, what about your past? Blah, blah, blah. I don't mind you talking about your wife. Oh, let's go to this anti-lumen protest thing. Well, I don't know. Anyway, it would not surprise me at all if she's a spy.
If Alexa was the source of that. But Harmony did say, when Mark told me about it, I was really happy. So, it may have just been Mark that was the source of it happening, because he certainly heard about it, the lactation problem. So if he had mentioned it to his neighbor,
fair enough,
then he might have listened. So yeah, I don't think it's clear that Alexa is the one who suggested it. Certainly, Mark's sister's husband, Ricken, said that we'll see a number of people. So
yes, you're right. That's a good point. I just think that it was interesting that they included that line where she's like, I recommended some lactation consultants.
Yes.
And then we're like, oh.
I mean, it may have been through her, but, maybe Mark didn't know, and then,
I got you. There's a scenario where Mark did it. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll leave that for now. I'm like just super suspicious of everybody. Like, I'm like, Lumen's in on it. That's a spy. That's a spy. That's a spy. Dylan's kid, spy. So we had this interesting scene then, where Mark sees that Petey's daughter is playing with her band.
Yes.
So he decides to go, and he ends up singing this protest song.
Yeah. I liked Alexa was looking sort of like, how do you feel about this? And then he
right.
I can sing along with this song. That's perfectly okay. I kind of wanted, Mark to take her aside and be like, I did know him because he came to me,
Right, that's on the tip of his tongue the whole time, but I think he's still scared to bring that up because.
Yeah, well, certainly in front of Alexa.
Or anybody, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I wonder how much Petey was in contact with his daughter after he, reunified or whatever they called it.
Right. Oh yeah, reintegrated. I think we're going to see that scene. I think that scene is coming where Mark is going to make a point to go talk to her, to be like, look, I get it. You're like, why do you care so much about Petey? You don't even remember knowing him. It's like, I do remember knowing him.
Yeah.
Because he met me on the outside and he wanted to, blah, blah, blah. So I think that scene's coming.
Yeah.
I think
I think you're right.
It seems like we're also headed on the path of he being Mark is meeting with Ragabi. Yes, Grainer's probably going to get an inkling of what's going on because he's showing up at the same place. But I think the idea is that Mark is going to agree at some point, maybe next episode. We're up to episode 7 now, to undergo the reintegration process. And so I think that's coming in the next couple of epids.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Ragabi is somebody that Harmony and Grainer and Milchick know.
Yep.
And also, I think it's interesting, too, that it's somebody we hadn't seen before. Rather than being Alexa, which we've seen before, and like, now her actions are more, take another meaning. No, it's just somebody we hadn't seen before, a name we hadn't heard until now, Ragabi.
I did like the fact that when the refining folks show up at O&D, they're like, this is more people than I've ever seen.
Yes.
It sure is.
Yeah, Mark is like, me too. This is new for me too. And it's interesting too that the thing that Alexa was saying that she was concerned about, it's interesting. Like she asked, during their date, she asked a very date-like question, like, what do you think about kids,
Yep.
And I liked the bit about, how he was slowly talking about, his previous marriage. And she was very sensitive. He was sensitive that whether or not he should be talking to her, and she's sensitive to the fact that she's willing to listen. But also that one thing on their first date that Alexa said is that you could have a girlfriend inside while you're talking to me. And even though we've heard a few times now that fraternization is discouraged, yet that's
there does
what
seem to be a link with the Helly.
It definitely, to anybody's eyes, they're starting to flirt.
He's got that little smile on his face.
Yeah.
Like, look at you.
Yep, and they're starting to tease each other. And I liked Helly's like, let's get back to work, slackers.
I liked Ricken mentioning something about like when Harmony shows up. And
Oh,
she's
the
like,
kale?
Hey, Mark. Yeah, he's like, no, he goes, hey, what'd I tell you about the kelp?
Yeah,
It's
the
like,
kelp,
like,
yes. Yeah.
He comes back to hanging the kelp. Like, it worked. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, it seems like if anybody was going to have Severance, it'd be Ricken's wife. It's just like, oh, my husband's here? Okay, now I will.
Click. So yeah, anyway, it's another compelling episode. I do feel like they're hitting that balance of revealing the story without, you know, you could do it. You could err in both directions. You could err by giving out too much at once, and you're like, okay, or you could err by making it so slow that you're like, come on, this feels manipulative in a bad way. So
yeah,
no,
I mean,
they're kind of
I think
doing
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm glad that I'm okay with the pace in which they're revealing information from two reviewers that they don't care for it, actually.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm sorry if you're one of those people, you know.
Yeah, no, I think it's going great. I'm still way invested, and I'm looking forward to. I feel optimistic.
The only
that I'm
pause,
gonna
or at
be
least
liking the
concern that
episodes.
I have, is that, you know, I'm hoping that I won't care once, you know, the extent that they reveal what they're actually doing.
Right.
You know, if they got something clever, I hope they've got something clever. Otherwise, I mean, you know, as long as they, I guess, keep focusing on the relationships the way they are and everything, I'll probably be fine with whatever they introduce.
You do feel like shows of this ilk, in a modern context, because of like Twitter and Reddit and stuff, that shows attempt to be a little too clever for their own good. Like, let's come up with something that no one would theorize.
Yeah.
But if you come up with something that no one would guess, that means probably that the reason no one's guessing it is because it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Right?
Yes,
So like, it's okay
Yeah.
to have an ending that is the result of what you've led up to. That's fine. And if somebody else guessed it, so be it. That's fine. If it makes sense, it makes sense. I'm much better with that than nobody guessed it. That's fine. You're good. So, agreed. I have confidence in this show. I think it's gonna stick the landing in a good way. Plus, as we know, there's a season 2 coming, so it won't be a landing. It'll be like probably a cliffhanger into the next season. We will be back talking about episode 7. Thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
Yes. And I think next week, that's when Moon Knight begins.
Oh, okay. Right. Moon Knight, we're certainly covering it. So get ready for that. Very nice. Very nice. All right. We'll be back talking about those wonderful things and more.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.